Welcome to our Remembrance Day Assembly. Before we start our Remembrance Day Assembly this morning, I would like us just to take a few moments to remember the people affected by the tragedy at Abbotsford Secondary School this week. So let's just take a few moments of silence to think about the victims, their families and friends, and the staff and students and community of Abbotsford Secondary School. Thank you. To start our assembly this morning, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Squamish Coast Salish peoples. Welcome to our Remembrance Day Assembly, members of the British Legion. Thank you so much for being with us again. Welcome to our assembly this year, members of the Squamish Nation. Welcome to our assembly, representatives of the Uniformed Services of West Vancouver, representatives of the City Council, members of the Mulgrave School Board, the School Foundation Board, and the MVP Executive. Welcome to past parents and present parents. Welcome to past and present members of staff. And particularly our founding head of school, Linda Hamer, who's joining us today. Welcome to our students, who are all members of uniformed organizations joining us today. Thank you so much for putting on your uniforms of various organizations. And finally, last but very not least, welcome to all of our students to our Remembrance Day Assembly today. Please be seated. As an international baccalaureate school, we are bound not only by our school's mission and vision, but also the mission and vision of the International Baccalaureate Organization. And to start our assembly today, I just want to remind you about the mission and vision of the International Baccalaureate Organization. It's very poignant and important today, because today is about celebrating peace. The mission of the International Baccalaureate Organization aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. Though the theme of today's assembly is to remember those people who allow us today to live in a more peaceful world. And it's incumbent upon all of us in this community, in an international baccalaureate school, to ensure that going forward, we have peace, and that we do not ever need people in the future to fight for our peace. And the way we can achieve peace in our community, in our multicultural community here, is to develop intercultural understanding and respect. Please enjoy today's assembly.
Salam alaikum is a greeting that spans many dialects. It originated as an Arabic greeting used by Muslims and translates to, "May peace be upon you." The phrase is used in many places around the world. The version we are going to sing for you today is a folk song from the central region of Ghana, from the Akan people. Its full translation is, "May peace be unto you. May peace be in your heart. May peace be in your home. May peace be in our world." We have chosen this to perform to you as a presentation to our honored guests.
Good morning, everyone. Before we start, we ask to remind you that it is not necessary to clap after every presentation. Thank you.
Every year, the Mulgrave community gathers together in remembrance. This is a time of year that we set aside to consider the sacrifices that our veterans and those fallen have made for our country and for us.
Sometimes we forget exactly what Remembrance Day is here for. Sometimes we forget what exactly the men and women who we remember gave up. And sometimes we forget why they made these sacrifices.
Remembrance Day began in 1931 to commemorate those who fell during World War I. However, over time, it has come to celebrate the men and women who have served and continue to serve our country during times of war, conflict, and peace, particularly World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and many more.
This week, we ask you to remember the hundreds of thousands of soldiers who have died for us. Numbers this large can sometimes seem like a statistic. And so today, we ask you to look around you. We ask you to look at the over 1,000 people sitting in this gymnasium. And we ask you for just a moment to imagine that every one of these people were men and women who died for our freedom. That there were over 100 other gymnasiums just like this one, filled with Canadians, men, women, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, all of which who chose to give their life for us.
There are inevitably those who protest, who say that we should not be celebrating war and the atrocities that invariably accompany it.
But they forget that this is not the purpose of Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day is in no way a celebration of war. Remembrance Day is a day of gratitude, of commemoration.
So, on Remembrance Day, we give our thanks. We thank those who gave their lives so we could stand here today, so we could speak with freedom, and so that we could walk our streets without fear.
We thank the countless brave men and women who gave everything they had to protect us, to allow us to raise the Canadian flag and sing our anthem with pride.
We thank those who continue to strive for peace in our world, and we shall not forget those who did so in the past. Thank you.
Squall Tanoya, Chukuman Tommy, James Squalls, Chukata, Elk Swat, Quetsuit, Nanam to High, not to Quick or Quaint. Where's K. Lolam Chit the Hospital Quile Lolam, Equales to Slansanite Siam. To thank you, Creator, for this wonderful day, thanking each and every one of you for your wonderful feelings. As the ladies, we prepared for the song and dance for each of the warriors, men and women, that went to war so we can once again be here today. So with the song, when we raise our hands up, we ask that you join us. Can you all raise your hands, please, and put your palms facing your face? That says thank you to the warriors. And also we're saying welcome home as well for those ones that did make it home, and we thank the flag bearers and the veterans that are here today.
Today, as we remember, 5J wanted to show you some of the faces of our Canadian heroes.
Do you think some of them will look like you? Your grandfather, your sister, or your brother? What exactly does a Canadian hero look like?
Do they look like this? Or this? What about this?
These men are from the No. 2 Construction Battalion, and because of their skin color, they were not allowed to fight for Canada in World War I.
Despite being treated unfairly, men such as these volunteered anyway, and their role in the war was reduced to construction.
Canadians like these supported the front lines by building roads and bridges, carrying wounded from the battlefield, and even defusing landmines so advancing troops could come through.
Are these the faces of Canadian heroes? How about these faces? These are the Louis brothers from British Columbia, and they were among 300 Chinese Canadians who served and fought in the First World War.
They were also denied the right to enlist in the war because of their identity. They wanted so desperately to show their patriotism for Canada, to support their country, and to be treated like other Canadians.
So they rode on horseback all the way to Calgary. The journey across the mountains took 3 months, but in February 1918, they enlisted in Calgary's 10th Battalion and were sent to France to fight. How about these faces? These are just a few out of the thousands of First Nations men that joined the armed forces and fought in foreign lands. Canada's First Nations responded quickly and with impressive numbers during the First Great Wars.
Their sacrifices and achievements were indeed inspiring.
There were countless other faces, always stories of true heroism, sacrifice, and valor that we wish to honor.
And even today, around the world, there are Canadians on the front lines and at home, making sure that our rights and freedoms are being protected.
Today, as we remember, we wanted to show you the faces of our Canadian heroes.
Do you think some of them will look like you? Your grandfather, your sister, or brother? These are the faces of Canadian heroes.
Some of them soldiers,
Some of them not. And some of them trying so desperately to change the way their people, culture, and language are perceived and who we remember on this day. We are so fortunate to learn in a school
that aims to create a greater awareness
and appreciation of different cultures. We plan to continue to learn, appreciate, and honor these courageous, intelligent, and proud carriers of the shield, because they mean more to us than just their pictures. This reminds us that although we have different faces, we can still learn from one another and achieve peace together.
special meaning with us. Although in this specific letter the soldier is American, we believe that the message of love carries true through any Canadian.
A week before the Battle of Bull Run, Sullivan Ballou, a major in the 2nd Rhode Island Volunteers, rode home to his wife in Smithfield.
July 14th, 1861, Camp Clark, Washington, D.C.
Dear Sarah, the indications are very strong that we shall move in a few days, perhaps tomorrow. And lest I should not be able to write to you again, I feel impelled to write a few lines that may fall under your eye when I am no more.
I have no misgivings about or lack of confidence in the cause in which I am engaged, and my courage does not halt or falter. I know how civilization now leans upon the triumph of the government, and how great a debt we owe to those who went before us through the blood and suffering of the Revolution.
And I am willing, perfectly willing, to lay down all my joys in this life, to help maintain this government, and to pay this debt.
Sarah, my love for you is deathless. It seems to bind me with mighty cables that nothing but omnipotence can break. And yet my love of country comes over me like a strong wind and bears me irresistibly with all those chains to the battlefield.
The memory of all the blissful moments I have shared with you come crowding over me, and I feel most deeply grateful to God and you that I have enjoyed them for so long.
And how hard it is for me to give them up and burn to ashes the hopes in future years when, God willing, we might still have lived and loved together and see our boys grown up to honorable manhood around us. If I do not return, my dear Sarah, never forget how much I loved you, nor that when my last breath escapes me on the battlefield, it will whisper your name.
Forgive my many faults and the many pains I have caused you. How thoughtless, how foolish I have sometimes been.
But oh, Sarah, if the dead can come back to this earth and flit unseen around those they love, I shall always be with you, in the brightest day and in the darkest night, always, always.
And when the soft breeze fans your cheek, it shall be my breath, or the cool air your throbbing temple, it shall be my spirit passing by.
Sarah, do not mourn me dead. Think I am gone and wait for me, for we shall meet again.
Sullivan Ballou was killed a week later in the first Battle of Bull Run.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not worry them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
So on behalf of West Vancouver City Council, Councillor Nora Gambioli and Councillor Mary Ann Booth, if you would like to come and lay a flower on behalf of the council, please. On behalf of the West Vancouver Police Department and the West Vancouver Fire Department, Inspector Rick Catlin and Inspector Marcia James. You can go and sit down. On behalf of the Squamish Nation, Roy Baker and Farah and Iana, please come up. On behalf of the Mulgrave Board of Directors, Gopi Chandy, Elaine Shepherd, Harry Hall, Jihad Sabah, Sylvia Heinrich. Richard Chia. On behalf of the Mulgrave Foundation Board, Bjorn Moller. On behalf of the Mulgrave volunteer parents, Brenda Rajani and Helen Joanna. On behalf of past staff and parents, Linda Hamer and Linda Crone. On behalf of the senior school students, Nicholas Belloc and Daisy Harris. On behalf of the middle school students, Luna Wang and Marcus Morrises. On behalf of the junior school, Miles and Zayan. On behalf of the uniformed students, Aidan, Miranda, Joanna, and Elaine.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now, we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. Thank you.
So please remain seated for the exit of the platform party. Platform party, if you would all stand, please. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this morning for the Remembrance Day Assembly.